fanboys and fangirls, the most ambitious year in the DCW universe has officially begun. This is a year that will include major milestones for this beloved franchise. As the title of this video suggests, we have the premiere of Batwoman. Then, on top of that, as we go along, as the year progresses, we will also have the ERod finale. We will have the 100th episode of Supergirl. We will have the massive mega Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover, the most ambitious crossover to ever be attempted in any comic book adaptation franchise. This crossover is bigger than Endgame. Might not be as successful, might not generate as much revenue as Endgame, but it will be bigger, it will be longer, and it will include way more characters than Endgame, if you can believe that. And of course, last but not least, next year, the big bad and the end half of Flash Season 6 will be none other than the Red Death, one of the most prominent, badass, and memorable supervillains of the modern comic book era. So I cannot emphasize enough how huge this year is, and they decided to kick off the year to start everything with the two female franchises, with Batwoman and Supergirl. And how beautiful and appropriate is that? They say that the future is female. I 100% agree, and I love how this franchise, and the CW for that matter, throw their considerable weight behind that belief and put their considerable support behind these female characters who we love. So without further ado, let me get to the main point of this video. That's enough of an intro, enough hyperbole. Let's get down to the basics. As the title of this video suggests, these are my first impressions of Batwoman, the series, solely based on the 40-minute or 44-minute pilot episode. That's it. My opinions on the show might change when the season is over. I promise you that I will post a video revealing my thoughts on the entirety of the season when the season concludes, and I will post that video on my Patreon page. For those of you who are not patrons and want to make sure to become patrons in order to not miss that video, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/ERod and pledge a minimum of $1. If you want to pledge more, that's your business. But a minimum $1 pledge and you will have access to my Patreon page and all the bonus videos that I post on that page, including next year when I post my E-rant on Batwoman Season 1. There you go. Anyway, so many things, so much to unpack here. First of all, I find it funny and peculiar that the title of this episode is simply The Pilot. But when the fact of the matter is that this is not the pilot at all. The pilot was actually the second chapter of the Elseworlds crossover last year. That was unashamed. That was completely and blatantly a backdoor pilot to Batwoman, 100%. So they already had their practice run, they already had their test run with this character and the costume and the martial arts and everything goes into it before they went into the actual show. And I know a lot of people think that that's bullshit. I think it's brilliant, it's cost effective, and it makes sense, and it made the Elseworlds crossover even more exciting than it already was. Okay, so I don't mind it. Can it go badly? Can they make a bad backdoor pilot? Absolutely. When they did the Legends of Yesterday, of Legends of Today crossover, that was a backdoor pilot for Legends of Tomorrow. It sucked. I hated that crossover. But it inevitably led, in the second season, to a good show. So there you go. So, just full disclosure, I like to be 100% honest with you guys, unscripted and honest with you guys when I do these videos. And I just want to tell you right here, right now, that as a long-term comic book fan, I had no strong feelings about Batwoman before this show. None. Batwoman, to me as a comic book reader, was one of those characters in that specific category that I didn't love and I didn't hate. She was just there. She existed. I had the same view about Blue Beetle, the original, not the original, but the Ted Kord Blue Beetle, Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, Vision, all characters that that I officially built an opinion about them the moment that they were adapted into TV shows, and in some cases movies. And this was very much the case with Batwoman. I never gave the character a second thought, not even when she was included in the DC animated movie, Batman Bad Blood, which I understand that's not the same Batwoman, somebody explained to me. That's fucking confusing. Comic books, bro. That's not the same Batwoman as this Batwoman. It's a different one. That's Cassandra Cain, and this is Kate Kane. Whatever. I didn't care until the very moment that Ruby Rose was casted as the character. And I thought, wow, they got this really iconic, young, slightly unknown actor who has so much potential as this really important character in this huge franchise. There's something here. Something is about to go down. And even though I wasn't excited to see the character, even though I had no strong anticipation, I was interested. Suddenly I was interested to see what they were going to do, what this character was going to be like, and the Elseworlds crossover did not disappoint at all. That crossover, with those few little scenes with Batwoman, in those moments, she was more like Batman than any of the live action actors for the past 10, 15 years, in my humble opinion. At me if you want, I don't give a fuck. But this woman, who I know she doesn't have as much experience being an actor, and she definitely does not have any experience at all shouldering an entire show, an entire franchise, being the titular character. But she just has this natural, perfect Batman-like presence about her. And you can't teach that. The greatest actor of all time just couldn't muster that. Okay? Not Daniel Day-Lewis, not Meryl Streep. They cannot magically have that. They can't learn that. They can't evoke that with all their talent. This is something that Ruby Rose just has naturally. She's one of those actors that when she walks into the room, she walks in with such a swagger and confidence that she just owns the room. And there's a scene in the pilot that fully embodies that. She's not wearing the bat suit yet, nothing like that. She walks in wearing motorcycle jacket, and she's in the headquarters of the Crows. And the Crows are made out of big, muscly, Navy SEAL looking motherfuckers. I mean, these guys are huge. And, you know, she's a relatively small, thin, like 90-pound woman. But that's not what you see when she walks into the room. She walks in with so much authority and swagger and determination that she just owns the room, and your eyes are just on her. And when you can be Batman without the bat suit, that's awesome. That's perfect. That's exactly what I look for in a Batman actor. And the reason why I'm, always so boisterous and unsupportive of the most recent castings of Batman, where I feel that a good character actor could efficiently play Bruce Wayne. But if you can go from without the costume, if you could go from Bruce Wayne to Batman, and transform from one character to the other just via the performance, that makes you the perfect person to play the character. If you can play Batman without the suit. Ruby Rose definitely has that. He has the Batman persona. As far as building an alter ego to go with Kate Kane, it's like she's always Batman, she always has the confidence and coolness, well, it's left to be seen. To me, even though in the pilot she's referred to as a female Bruce Wayne, no offense, but I disagree. To me, she's more like a female Terry McGinnis from Batman Beyond. She's a bit of a punk. She has a definite attitude. To me, she's more like Spike from Buffy. She just has this anti-authority, fuck you, I take your rules, I shove them up your ass, and I do my own thing, and I do it better than you attitude, which again is something else that she carries really, really well. She has that really cool rebel attitude. She's a bad girl, you know? But as far as being the female Bruce Wayne, I don't see that. And honestly, that's a good thing. Anyway, she should be her own character. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, she's closer to Terry McGinnis, Will Friedle from Batman Beyond, which is, you know, not a bad comparison at all. Anyway, so a little bit off the subject, I have to ask, where the fuck is the Batgirl action figure? Oh, for that matter, where the fuck is the Black Lightning action figure? I'm waiting, guys, seriously. Mattel, Hasbro, whoever it is, I'm pretty sure it's Mattel. Whoever makes these toys, seriously, I want those two characters to happen. Make them happen. Make those toys based on Ruby Rose and Chris Williams, please. Sorry, I had to get into that sidebar. So, the major thing that people just can't get over as far as this show is concerned is representation. This is the first ever superhero show where not only is the titular character female, but the titular character is gay. And people just can't get over that fact. They just, boom, focus in and hone in on that. Which is kind of annoying because there's more to it than that, but at the same time, it's good because people will be focusing on that, hyper-focused on that, and not hyper-focus on the show's possible flaws. You know, when it comes to Batman and Spider-Man for that matter, there's just two franchises that are so overexposed that people focus on every minute little goddamn fucking pointless, unimportant detail and just dissect it to death. Ultimately, on top of the fact that there's amazing, wonderful representation in this show of the gay community, and that will hopefully push to normalize those kind of characters on our regular television, and that's awesome. At the end of the day, this was a good, decent Batman pilot. Okay? Was it perfect? No. And pilots usually aren't perfect, and that's a good thing. When Adam West, Batman, said this the best, the reason his Batman show failed is because they started at the top. They started as the #1 show, most popular show. They started at the highest that any TV show could possibly go, and when you start at the top, there's nowhere to go but down, okay? This show didn't start at the top, didn't start at the bottom. The pilot is just good. It's okay. It's good enough. We get the point. And now they have a good foundation to build stuff on top of that that is incredible, that is amazing, that is Emmy-worthy. What matters here is that the pilot had potential, okay? And it wasn't bad. And unlike the pilot to its the most of the other DCW shows, like Arrow, Supergirl, and Flash for that matter, not Legends as much. Unlike the pilots of those shows, the pilot to this one is a two-parter. All those pilots, even though they weren't bad, they felt rushed. Here, they're taking their sweet mother-loving time. Kate Kane doesn't even wear the Batwoman costume. She wears an altered version of Batman's costume to go out at the end of this episode, and it's a quick sequence. Again, they just give you a little taste of what that aspect of the show will be like, which is fine, all right? Leave the audience wanting more. Don't give them everything right off the bat, right in your first installment. Leave the audience wanting more, and they definitely did that. They gave you just enough for you to understand what the show's going to be like, and then, boom, they ended it, and now it's going to continue next week, and I can't wait to see what they're going to do next. I can't wait for her to put on her comic book accurate Batwoman costume, which, by the way, I love that costume, and I love how close it is to its comic book counterpart. But anyway, so let's talk about stuff that annoyed me a little bit, or that I'm concerned with, even though they weren't bad. They immediately introduce the guy in the chair, Luke Fox, the son of Lucius Fox, played by Morgan Freeman in the Dark Knight trilogy. So Luke Fox is gonna be the guy that builds all of Batwoman's gadgets, and he sits in the chair in front of the computer with an earpiece. It's like, turn left, turn right, the bad guys are hiding in the attic. Run, Batgirl, run. Sorry, Batwoman. Run, throw a batarang. As most of you know, I fucking hate that. The only show and or adaptation that should have that should be Birds of Prey with Oracle, aka Barbara Gordon, the actual Batgirl, who I keep confusing Batwoman for. I apologize. I'm a comic book fan. I should know better. But every fucking DCW show has that shit. Oh, Batman Beyond, also perfectly fine to have that. First cartoon to have it. But every fucking DCW show, Flash, Arrow, Supergirl, Legends, somebody always stays in the Wave Rider, is talking to the others, telling them what to do. Ugh. I'm so sick of it. Now, on this show's defense, Luke Fox didn't do that in the pilot episode, but I can feel it in the marrow of my bones. I know it's gonna happen, and just know that when it happens, possibly in the next episode, you're gonna hear this weird noise, like a faint noise, somewhere in the distance, and that will be the rolling of my eyes. I'm gonna do it so hard, it's gonna make a clicking sound, like the drawbridge of a castle dropping down. Oh man, that annoys me so much, because they don't need that shit in the comics, but for whatever reason they need it in the TV shows. End of my meaningless, pointless fanboy gripe. There you go. One thing that I will say about Batman on this show. Now, on Supergirl, a lot of people complained when the show started that Superman wouldn't show up, at least in the first season. They kept talking and talking and talking about Superman, and they would go, oh, there goes Superman out the window, going to save the day. Oh, he was defeated. Did you see how he was defeated? I guess Supergirl's gonna have to save the day now. That actually happened in an episode. And you know, there's one episode or two episodes where he shows up on Silhouette when Kara is rescued from her escape pod. When she lands on Earth, she's pulled out of it by Superman, and he's in Silhouette. And then later, she's rescued from a villain by Superman, and he's in Silhouette again, and people were like, Superman needs to show up. Well, I didn't necessarily feel that way. I thought that if Superman were to show up, he would take the spotlight away from Supergirl, and I didn't want that. But then he shows up in season 2, and they did it excellently, and that did not happen. But again, I never felt like he needs to show up. On the flip side of that, on Batwoman, I need Batman to show up, okay? Just the way they set him up and how he left Gotham for 3 years, how he failed to rescue Kate's mother and sister and all that. He needs to show up. He needs to explain himself. He needs to explain his absence, where he's been. That needs to happen. It's a huge, massive, long plot thread that extends from one corner of the United States to the other. It is long. And it could potentially go around the world. It's so long. So they need to really tie up that plot thread and have Batman appear. And when he shows up, he will be played by Carl Urban. The end. Don't at me. Honestly, I trust their casting choices. So whoever they cast. But yeah, the way they set it up, Batman does need to show up, as much as it pains me to admit it, and as much as I would rather the show focus solely on Batwoman. Now this part is very spoilery, so if you haven't seen the Batwoman pilot, you might want to stop the video here, but if you have seen it, by all means, continue to watch this video. Stay with me on this journey. But when I was first watching the pilot, they introduce Kate's stepsister, who, when she first shows up and she's talking to Kate on the phone, she comes across as this very flighty, ditzy, superficial character. But then towards the end of the episode, they pull a twist, M. Night Shyamalan twist, and it turns out that she's secretly this generous underground doctor that helps people that can't afford healthcare, which is very handy for Batwoman, who will more than likely be injured in her adventures and need medical care. And turns out, wow, she's way cooler. But before that scene, the moment I saw her and she was talking to Kate on the phone and Kate was super annoyed with her, I instantly thought to myself, oh, she's going to be turned into a supervillain. And of course it turned out that she was so far away from that. And then, of course, it turns out at the end that Alice, the main villain of the episode, and apparently the big bad for the entire season, I just found out, actually is Kate Kane's biological sister. She just went in a completely different direction and became a supervillain. So that was a weird little twist for me. fun but weird. And on the subject of Alice, awesome performance from Rachel Skarsten. Excellent. Awesome, classic, real classic, awesome, twisted Batman villain. The production design, the costume design for her, kick ass. I loved all her outfits, all the little details. You never lost sight that she was a twisted version of Alice from Alice in Wonderland, or Alice Through the Looking Glass, whichever one you prefer. Or if you prefer them both, that's also fine. However, as many have already pointed out on the internet, but I'm going to point out here just in case you don't know, Rachel Skarsten also played Dinah Lance, just Dinah Lance, not Black Canary, on the live-action WB Birds of Prey TV show. And via extreme coincidence, not only is she coming back into the DC universe, but her co-star from that show, Ashley Scott, who played Huntress on that show, is also going to do a cameo appearance on Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover. And so I'm just waiting for Dana Meyer, who played Barbara Gordon in that, to also make an appearance somewhere along the lines on one of the 5 DCW shows airing this year. We'll see. But incredible how, and she was never a bad actor, I don't mean to imply that, but in the Birds of Prey show, her character was so fucking annoying. She was just an annoying teenage sidekick. Don't know why they did that to Black Canary, no clue. But ironic how that character turns out to be one of the coolest new characters introduced during this new year of the DCW universe. Because Alice is one kick-ass villain, and when I first saw her in the trailer, I thought, oh, they're just going to use her for the pilot. But no, she's apparently going to be the big bad throughout, so good choice. Awesome performance by Rachel, who now, as a grown-up, looks exactly like Black Canary, but unfortunately, they already have a Black Canary. In fact, they have 2 Black Canaries in the DCW universe, so there you go. But honestly, prefer her as a villain. If the creators of these shows, Greg Berlanti, Mark Guggenheim, all of them have proven something, is that they are DC fans through and through. They've been trying to get Batman included. Originally, ERod was supposed to be a young Bruce Wayne, a Batman Year One show, but Warner Brothers wouldn't allow them the rights to Batman to do it, so they went with ERod instead. You can tell that they're fans, and nothing proves that more than the inclusion of a former DC alum, Rachel Skarsten, as Alice. But there's just a lot of nice, beautiful, perfect little hints throughout this pilot episode that shows that they are hardcore DC fans. One of them being that the movie that they're watching at the very end, during the final battle, is The Mark of Zorro, which is the movie that Bruce Wayne and his parents, Thomas and Martha, were watching the night that they were unfortunately murdered in the alley and set Bruce on his path. And that's the movie that's being seen the first night that Kane dons the Batman costume and goes out and fights crime. Very appropriate. Beautiful that they used that exact movie. And of course, the biggest nod to the Batman adaptations being that the trigger, the entrance to the Wayne Industries Batcave, the Batcave away from the Batcave, is a glass case with Martha's necklace inside of it, her pearl necklace that Joe Chill was trying to steal when he shot her and Thomas in Crime Alley. Now, interesting fact, that was an element that was created and introduced by the Tim Burton Batman movie. It did not exist before that. So again, it's a detail that has become integral to the franchise, but that, again, a super hardcore fan would latch onto. And so I love that these are all shows that are made by the fans for the fans. So am I going to continue to check out this show? Abso-fucking-lutely. I dig it. Is Ruby Rose the greatest actor in the world? Is her American accent flawless? Is she the perfect Batman or Batwoman or whatever? No. And quite frankly, I don't give a shit. This is the pilot episode. She's just getting started. And for what she's done so far, I think it's pretty good. And it's a good, like the pilot itself, it's a good foundation to build upon. If anything, she has proven that she is 100% dedicated to this franchise. She actually hurt her back shooting the first few episodes and had to skip out from promoting the show at San Diego Comic-Con because she had to go through a 4-hour back surgery to get that fixed. It was an old injury that got aggravated while shooting Batwoman. Just stories like that, and just all the stuff that she has done for this show in just such a short period of time, goes to show that she is the perfect candidate to take on this franchise. And I promise you, this is somebody who hasn't been acting for long in movies and TV shows, who hasn't been acting on this level long, who has never had a principal role on anything. She's for the most part always been a supporting character. And even if she had a principal role, she was definitely not the titular character. She definitely didn't have one of the biggest franchises of today on her shoulders. And yet she's taking it on, and she's taking it on with so much poise and dignity and confidence, and I respect the fuck out of that. And again, this is huge. This is the first ever female gay superhero show where that's the titular main character. You know, every time she does an interview, she mostly gets questions just about that. And then, you know, the fans get up and they start asking questions about comic book related questions, and she knows her shit. She's done her homework. This is not a woman that grew up reading all the comic books, but she knows her shit. She's done her homework. She knows the other characters. She knows the mythology of Kate Kane and Batwoman. So she's busting her ass and trying to make this work. So even if she's not your favorite actor in the Batman adaptations, respect the fuck out of that woman. The end. So those are my thoughts on the Batwoman pilot, my first impressions. Like I said, my opinions on the show might change at the end of the season. Stay tuned to my Patreon page to find out what my final thoughts are on Batwoman Season 1. But for now, for this moment, during the first week of this show, I am digging it. Feel free to voice your opinions in the comment section below. My only stipulation is that you don't fight each other. Please be civil with one another. We're all fanboys and fangirls. We're all brothers and sisters in arms. There's no need to fight. There's no need to be rude, homophobic, misogynistic, none of that bullshit. Not in my comment section. Thank you. We can voice different opinions without being hurtful towards one another. So as per usual, thank you so much for your ongoing support, because I could not do what I do without you.